7 o'clock. I'll call the meeting to order. Clerk Slater, please call the roll.
Trustee Rissy.
Here.
Trustee Nordhook.
Here.
Supervisor Lesbrunz.
Here.
Treasurer Corstange.
Here.
Trustee Nordike.
Present.
Trustee Shipley.
Present.
Clerk Slater, present.
Please rise for the Pledge of Allegiance.
Pledge of allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Is there a motion for approval of tonight's agenda?
Shipley. Go ahead. Move to approve the agenda. Shipley supports.
The motion by trustee Shipley, supported by trustee Rizzi, supported by trustee Shipley. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carried. Article 4, presentations. Tonight we have our annual report from the fire department. Chief Majors, thank you for coming tonight.
All right. Can you hear me now?
Yep.
Thank you. Appreciate it. I'll keep it brief. You've got a hard copy in front of you. It'll be published on the website tomorrow morning. Just wanted to review the annual report and then open it up for any questions. So I'll hit some highlights and I'll go sit down. In responses in 2024, so this past year, we averaged 5 minutes, 33 seconds. In our standard to cover, we have a goal of 6 minutes or less from the time somebody picks up the phone and calls 911 until you have a firefighter on scene mitigating the emergency. So we are under that. That is a stat we are proud of. Since we've moved back into Station 1 from the airport, huge reduction in time for that. So that was a good highlight for us. Incident count for all calls, 2,550. It's a 4.3% increase from last year. We average between 4 and 5 every year, so we're right on target for what we normally do. Next, total hours of training. So 6,520, a little bit more this year than normal. We are in an ISO year. In an ISO year, they come in and inspect. And one of the big things they look for is training hours specifically for live fire training. So that's why you see some of those hours. Mutual aid this past year. We gave 80 calls for service to our neighbors. So Kentwood, Lowell, Ada, Caledonia, Gaines, Dutton, the airport. And then we received 48. You'll see that aid received number go up next year. At the end of last year, we signed a contract with the airport. They bought a aerial truck and they staff it 24 hours a day with 2 firefighters. So we automatically get them for any call for a structure fire in the township. We get them from their new station off of Cascade and Thornapple right away. So that's a 40% increase in our staff response for a structure fire. So that should increase this next year. So that was a good get for the Cascade. This is kind of a breakdown of what types of calls. Again, we run about 66% medicals. The national average is about 70%. So we're right on target with what everybody else is doing. And again, we've got between 3 and 5% fires, another 3 and 5% for hazmat. About 10% of our calls are for auto accidents. And then you've got a little bit of everything in between. That is pretty standard for everybody, but that's kind of a breakdown of what we do. A little bit of a breakdown. So Station 1's area is anything west of the river. Anything east of the river is Station 2's area. You'll see Station 2's area is noticeably slower. 417 calls originated east of the river. That doesn't mean Station 2's crew only responded to 417 calls. That just means that those were where the calls were located. Station 1 is incredibly busy compared to 2, but our Station 2 crews often fill in Station 1. So anytime you have a structure fire or a car accident or a hazmat or a fire alarm, they come as well. And then anytime you stack up 2 medicals at once, they would cover that. So the Station 2's crews runs a little over 1,000 a year, but only 417 originate east of the river. This looks a little skewed. All 3 shifts run about mid 800s. So it's pretty balanced. Every year in our annual report, we set goals. We don't always hit them. This past year, we actually achieved all of our goals. which we were super proud of. The biggest goal we had was a successful ISO inspection year with upgraded score. But 5 years ago, we lowered our score to a 4. Incredibly proud of that. That's a really good score for a community our size. We actually lowered that to a 3. So on Tuesday, April 1st, we go down to a 3. So we'd encourage all of our residents to check with their insurance company, see if they can't get lowered premiums. Just for, I guess, comparative sake, I came from the city of Battle Creek, 100 firefighters and 7 stations, and I believe we were a 4. And so going to a 3 of a community our size, I'm just really proud of our personnel for getting through that. Next, successful implementation of a deputy chief position, something we've been working on for a few years. Last year, we were successfully implemented. Deputy Chief Stevenson's been great. He does a lot of work. He's been a big help. So that's been a good goal. Plan and execute compliant township emergency readiness exercise. So the board every year adopts that the hazard mitigation plan from Kent County. So we do follow that, and part of following that, we are obligated to run readiness exercises. That is one of the duties of the deputy chief. Last year we had, so anytime you have those mock disaster exercises, that's what that is. This year we're going to work with Kate Chase, our community deputy, and we're going to combine some of those together to have some of those resources shared. Next one, send personnel to the National Fire Protection Association 1403 live fire instructor course. So anytime, Cascade's lucky, we don't run a ton of structure fires in our area, but any low frequency, high risk call like a structure fire, we still have to be good at it. And so you have to put people into realistic environments, but you can't do that legally unless you have certifications to keep them safe. We sent 4 firefighters to instructor school last year, and so and that helps with our score. So that was a big goal. Next, develop and implement NFPA 1500 safety program. So you talk about MIOSHA and some of those standards. So any NFPA 1500 covers all safety, including your MIOSHA standards and your rules and laws. We are one of the few departments in Michigan that actually have a compliant safety program that's NFPA 1500 approved. So super proud of that. Our health and safety officer, Captain Knowles, that was delegated to him, and he did a fantastic job. So that is implemented, and we are running off of that. And next is secure millage replacement for operating budget. As you know, our millage expired last year, and we had good community support. So we do have funding for the next 10 years and through 2033, and then it's got the overlapping 20-year millages. So that was a big goal achieved as well. And then 2025 goals. First goal, new engine 2 upfitted and placed into service. So engine 2 was approved by the board, I believe 2 years ago for $950,000. It is just about ready to be delivered. Lieutenant Pullman is our vehicle fleet maintenance officer. He's in Iowa right now doing final inspection. So assuming that goes well, that will be delivered next week. It should be about 45 days to upfit and put in service, and that should be running emergencies right around mid-May. So we're excited for that. That's on target. Next, turnout gear grant implemented and reimbursed program operational. A set of turnout gear is about $5,000. We have 36 on our roster. And so anytime you order a set of turnout gear, it takes about 6 months to manufacture and deliver. And as soon as it's done, it takes about 10 years before that becomes obsolete. It's only good for 10 years. So that clock starts as soon as you order it. And then also 2, every set of gear has to be sent off to a third-party expert to be inspected, cleaned, and repaired. And that's anywhere from $200 to $600 per set. And it takes about 6 weeks to accomplish. So you send somebody's gear off, it's gone for 6 weeks. They have to have backup gear, which also has the same costs and the same lifespan and all that. We did successfully write a grant for a backup set for everybody. So it's been a big win financially for us. That is on track to be delivered, and we get that input in the computer and get that on the same cycle. We'll be able to have a better turnaround for compliance. So that's been a big win. That is on track. Next is establish and implement a company officer development program. You can only really be a firefighter for about 25 years. So there's a ton of turnover. and you expect your fire officers to be able to maintain a certain standard and qualification and skill set. In order to do that, you got to send them to school constantly. All of our fire officers are certified in all the things that they should be. We want to have like a professional development program that has brackets on it, is more organized, and is Cascade specific. So that is something I'm working on this year. We are on target for that. Next is develop a conceptual plan for Fire Station 2 remodel. Fire Station 2 was constructed in 1996. It was updated to accommodate full-time firefighting in 2004. A lot of its infrastructure is still original and is due it's kind of at its end of life, where there's a lot of maintenance that is needed. So I've been working with Manager Smith to come up with a plan that makes sense. There's a lot of projects coming up Cascade in the next year or two. I want to make sure it fits into the budget, fits into the schedule, works well with Dan and his team. Just have it make sense. So we are undergoing a conceptual plan for that maintenance package, and that is going well. I believe Jade will have something in the next couple of months that kind of encompasses a little bit of that, along with all the other projects coming. And then next is develop and implement a fire department strategic plan. So any good fire department has to have 4 foundational documents, one of which is a set of standard operating plans or policies and procedures, which we do have. That's kind of your rule book and how you operate. And then you have to have an annual report, which we're presenting on now. We do this every year. And then you have to have a standard of cover, which basically is a risk assessment for your community. How many people do you have? What kind of risk it has? And then how much money do you have? How many fire department personnel do you need? How many engines do you need? How much money do you need to run that, et cetera? And how much? So for example, our response time of 6 minutes or less, that is based on NFPA standards, but it's also specific to our risk in our community. And that's in our standard of cover. So we do have that document as well. As far as a strategic plan, which is the 4th document, we've been operating off of an older strategic plan. Typically, they're good for 3 to 5 years, and you like to have them coincide with a board cycle. So now that we have our board together, that's all been elected, and for the next 4 years, this plan will go along with your 4-year tenure. And so as we go forward, we've had citizen input committee. We're in the middle of internal analysis. It goes to board subcommittee here in June. I review it with Jade every month, and then it'll go to the board for your review and opinions in the fall. So hopefully this will be a good document you guys can reference anytime I come up here, any of my guys come up here and request something. You'll be able to use that as a document that is in the vision of Cascade Township's strategic plan. So that was our those are our goals for 2025, and that's basically it in a nutshell. So I'll open up for questions if you have any. Otherwise, I'll get out of your hair.
Chief Majors, I think you and your team represent the best of this township, so I thank you for your service and for your team's service.
Appreciate that. Thank you.
Yeah.
All right.
I would echo that, but I would also, I'm curious, you mentioned the turnout gear goes in, has to go in for inspection and repair,
It
and it
does.
takes 6 weeks. How often do you have to send it in for that?
We send it in once a year.
Once a year? So
Yep,
it's an
once-
annual thing?
It is a requirement. So it's a requirement anytime you go into an IDLH environment or immediately dangerous to life and health. So when you go into a structure fire, you have to take it out of service and wash it. And then you have to document that wash, and then you have to put it back in service. And then once a year, all of this gear has to be certified by a professional third-party company where they inspect it, they clean it, they analyze it, and then they repair it. It's expensive. I'll be honest, most departments don't do it, but they're still liable if something bad happens.
Sure.
So we are compliant with that.
I was just curious. Thank you.
Yeah. All right. Thank you.
Thank you,
Appreciate it.
Chief. Article 5, now's the time for public comments on anything that is already on tonight's agenda. Tonight, we've got fire department athletic training. Also, we've got 2 proposed new streetlights in Cascade, purchasing furniture for the library and the Wisner Center, and then also some parks equipment purchases. In the past, I've been really lax about structure and addressing the board and staff, but I think to be fair to all staff and people that are here to prepare for the meeting going forward, I'm going to be able to try to direct your questions to the board, to myself. We can then direct it to the proper people. We're not going to respond as a back and forth like town hall meeting, even though I don't mind that, but I think in the interest of fairness for everybody, we can respond as much as possible during the manager comments and the board comments at the end. And then if that's, if we need more time, we can get you information and reach out to you either at the next meeting or in an email or phone call. And then secondly, to be fair to all the residents, try to limit your comments to 3 minutes in the interest of fairness. So with that, and it's usually not an issue, I just wanted to clean it up a little bit going forward. So with that, please state your name and your address for record keeping, and we welcome you. Good evening, sir.
Good evening to the board. My name is Captain Ted Wilson. I've owned property in the area since 91, been a resident here since 92. I've been down to the township offices a couple of times. Notes have been taken, but I've not seen action on the subject I'm about to bring up. And that is
Is it on tonight's agenda? Because if not, we'll have a second public comment period following the board's business.
then I'll wait for that.
Oh, thank you.
Sure.
Any other comments on tonight's agenda? Article 6, approval of the consent agenda. Discussion or a motion?
Shipley makes a motion to approve the consent agenda as presented.
Support. Further discussion?
I just would like to make a comment about the minutes. We're going to be writing them with less detail rather than more in the future. I've gotten some complaints during my time as clerk, and I didn't write it the way they said it, whatever. And so actually, we're going to write less detail instead of more. We're only required to state that public comment was made, not even who said what. So we were taught to record what was done, not what was said. So if you are here and you make a public comment and you want to see it in the minutes, it's not there, that's why. It's just, we're just trying to conduct our business and record what was done. So I just wanted to make that clear.
And everything is on, the recordings are online of present meetings. You can be live or watch after the fact, but also find old meetings. With that, I forget who made the motion. Trustee Shipley?
Yep.
Supported by Treasurer Corstange to approve the consent agenda. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carried. Financial actions, motion or discussion?
Make a motion to approve the financial actions.
Support.
It's a motion by Treasurer Corstange, supported by Trustee Shipley to approve tonight's financial actions. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carried. Having no unfinished business, either item or Article 9, new business, first item 021-2025. Consider approval of a 3-year contract with Humanitics Fire Department Athletic Training Program. Manager Smith, do you want anything? Do you want to say anything before?
No, Chief Majors can handle it.
Okay.
All right, thank you. Some of you might remember a few years ago, we had a grant that afforded us a lot of improvements in our health and wellness. Some of that is pursuing more of a sports medicine model to take care of our firefighters that we're really dealing with a lot of injuries over the last decade or so. Cost the township a lot of money in lost wages, and our insurance rates, or I guess the mod factor for our risk pool, is really high. And so one of the goals we had to mitigate that was to pursue that grant and get some of that fixed. And we've had a ton of success with a portion of that, which was our athletic trainer initiative with Ken Follett. Ken Follett originally worked with the Center for Physical Rehab, is where that program started. He's been here 2 years and our mod factor, or I guess that risk percentage, has reduced significantly. We've got a really good program. The department is in a really good place. We are exactly where we want to and need to be as far as what our rates are, how much we pay to, for workers' comp and that type of thing. We did go last year for requests for quotes. We had some difficulty with 1-year quotes. Not a lot of people like to throw their hat in the ring for 1 year to establish that relationship. And then a lot of the companies that were interested didn't have the qualifications with athletic trainer. So an athletic trainer isn't I guess like a fitness trainer. You would go get a 6-week certification at a gym. This is something, it's a 5-year program at a university where it's for injury mitigation and rehabilitation. Ken Follett's an expert in the public safety realm of that. And so he's done a really good job with our team. We are recommending a 3-year contract to maintain that relationship and really get some of those good numbers to make sure that the last year or two was consistent and not a fluke. So we want to really kind of get that picture to make sure that the township's in good standing with our firefighter health and wellness and keeping our firefighters on the job. We did have our attorney look at it. The only recommendation he made, and I did print it off for you as a hard copy, paragraph 1, instead of commenced, change that to concluded. And then in paragraph 11, he requested in the indemnification portion to have that be mutual language. So from a hold harmless standpoint, it benefits the township as well as Humatics. But other than that, he recommended it as it stands with those changes. So I'll answer any questions. Otherwise, I'll leave it up to you.
Company thing.
He's not here.
I just had one comment about the fee schedule. I think it's a quarterly option at the top, not a monthly option.
Quarterly, yes, correct.
I just think that needs to
Oh,
be.
yeah, it says monthly. It should say quarterly.
Oh, okay. Yes, we can change that. Yeah, it would be quarterly. And we could pay monthly if that was what the board
Yeah,
chooses to.
either way, I just don't want to pay this amount monthly.
No, I don't like it. Yeah, I don't either.
That was my only comment.
I have a couple of questions for you, Chief. You have in your stations athletic gym equipment so that the guys can keep phoned up during their off time.
Correct.
Okay, do you need any additional equipment for this program to be maximally effective?
We do not. In that successful grant, we had, I believe, $62,000 of equipment that was grant funded for both stations. And they are utilized daily as part of our standard operating procedures with Humatics.
Okay, next question. Is this in your budget?
It is.
Okay.
It is.
That's 2 very good questions asked. And I have some other comments later on, not directed towards you, but towards the manager.
Okay.
That's all I have.
I have a comment. I highly support this contract. Ken Follett actually, I believe, came from Center for Physical Rehab,
Correct.
which hires the athletic trainers. My daughter is an athletic trainer, just to disclose, there's no conflict of interest here, but we first actually approached you, Chief, 2 or 3 years ago about this. And it's an up and coming field. It's actually, they're celebrating 50 years this year, but it's an up and coming field in people's consciousness because what Adam wants for the fire department is such a highly specialized niche. And it's very important. There's not very many people who do what Ken does. My daughter's an athletic trainer at a high school, and she'll come home and tell me somebody won a championship or somebody won a game. And I said, well, being her mother, of course, because our athletic trainer took such good care of them, because it's about injury prevention and return to sport and assessing injuries correctly and all that sort of thing. And when you see, as you have seen, the progress with less injuries and better recovery, it's definitely prevention is definitely a factor. So I think it's something that's very definitely needed. And so I'm in strong support of it. With that, I can make a motion.
Make a motion to approve the 3-year contract.
The 3-year contract paid on a quarterly
Support.
basis.
It's a motion by Clerk Slater, supported by Treasurer Corstange to approve the 3-year contract as presented. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carried. Thanks, Chief.
Thank you. Appreciate it.
Item 022-2025. Consider authorization for change in standard lighting contract with Consumers Energy to install an overhead street light at Colchester Drive and Thorncrest Drive. Engineer Thorne, Manager Smith, anything?
I know we've got some newer board members. This is a standard procedure whenever we get a request for a streetlight in Cascade Township. Eric works with the residents and puts out a notice, but he can go through the process, but this is pretty standard whenever we have that come through.
Received two requests fairly close to each other, I believe in November and December of last year. That's why you see both of them in front of you today. Much easier just to bring them both at the same time. Resident requests, streetlight. In this case, there's one at the corner of Colchester and Thorncrest. The other one, Lily Ridge, which is a private drive off of Whitneyville Avenue. So what we do is I'll go out there and I'll investigate what residents are telling me. In the case of the former, Thorncrest and Colchester, it's a typical suburban, I would call it, neighborhood in Cascade Township. It's an intersection, Thorncrest and tees into Colchester, and the resident was just requesting a street light at that intersection to help shine a light on pedestrians that tend to walk through that area. And what I saw is exactly what they were saying, is it's kind of a dark area, and I could see why you'd want a light for pedestrians. The latter case,
Do you know for this one,
Yeah.
I saw there was one letter of support. Is that the same gentleman who made the
No.
request?
no, I didn't include them. I have the original request, and then who's ever included on the support or against it is a separate person.
Okay.
I do believe that there was one request for both of them, and then I think there was probably one letter of support in both of them.
One call and.
One with a call, yeah. So it's very minimal. I think I heard from 3 people total.
And one opposition to the
Yeah,
one you.
yep, at Lily Ridge. And then Lily Ridge is just on Whitneyville Avenue there, it's kind of a quick road. And I know the curve, I talked with another gentleman to that curve. If you go a few hundred feet north, I know it has a little bit of a crash history. So I can kind of empathize with anybody. The idea there was the lady who requested it wanted a street light so that traffic exiting that road could be better seen by traffic on Whitneyville. So both of those kind of passed the test for me. They both made sense logically. So submit those to consumers. Consumers then comes back to us and they say, okay, this is what we could do. Case of Colchester and Thorncrest, they can put a pole up and then they mount a cantilever street light on that. Similar style, they mount a cantilever street light on an existing pole, about 100 foot south of that intersection at Lily Ridge in Whitneyville. And so now all they do is wait on us for your approval. You have to provide them the authorization to change standard lighting contract, and then the resolution to make changes in the lighting service as provided in the standard lighting contract.
So this particular item is just for the Colchester Thorncrest intersection?
Yeah, they provide us their separate resolutions, one for each.
And what did you do? Send out letters to,
Yep, so everybody, I think the Colchester and Thorncrest, I had probably about a dozen letters. I think it was about a dozen letters each. Thorncrest and Colchester, it was the adjoining houses and nearby the intersection. And then Lily Ridge, I hit the whole Lily Ridge. It's a little cul-de-sac there with, I want to say 12 houses, and then a few houses on Whitneyville immediately nearby.
and you only got
We got 3 responses, I believe, 2 in support and then 1 on Lily Ridge was against.
I was just curious, did anybody reach out to the individual on, I think it's on Colchester, that's gonna have the pole in their yard? Are they aware that the pole? will be
That was
installed
actually
there?
the requesting person.
Okay,
Yep.
all right,
Yep.
thank you.
Yeah, but I believe the letter, I know, the letter we sent out describes where the pole is, so it was made clear the address that it's located at.
Just want to know that they had an opportunity to
Yes.
say, you know, I need to put it here instead of here.
I think they were very
Yeah.
very excited for it.
This Colchester, like, didn't we have this on the agenda 3-4 years ago?
don't.
I think it got turned down.
There was one out,
Well, that was 36 and Cherry Lane, 36 and Cherry Lane that
It's
was.
that one, but I thought there was one on Colchester as well.
I don't recall it. I went out there last night in the dark to look.
Was it dark?
I drove.
Could you
I
see
drove in the
anything?
dark, yep.
Just couldn't find it.
And
let's say,
at the corner of Thorncrest where it runs into Colchester, it's very dark there, and I think those people like it dark because it's their quiet little neighborhood personally. And the two homes that it Thorncrest runs into all have solar lighting on their front lawn for 2 lawns wide. So that intersection is lit by solar lighting. So I personally am not in favor.
I have a question about just the cost.
Go ahead.
How does that work?
So Consumers Energy requires $100 as part of the authorization. And then it becomes, the lights become in our standard contract, I believe it's, and Lorna can verify, because I think the original information is from Lorna. It's $17 per month per light, which amounts to $204 a year per light. And then that's paid in part by 2 special assessment districts for lighting. It's paid, I think, 1/2. The special assessment district pays 1/2 of the monthly fee.
Was that in the letter as well, that the neighbor, I'm assuming the special assessment is those neighbors that you sent letters to, so they know that they're gonna have an increased charge?
Yes.
Okay, and then, my other question is, there's a kind of a list of things that Consumers Energy needs to have done. Is there any contracted engineering cost or anything for the township associated with this?
No, the only part that comes back on the township potentially is the restoration of the area. So in theory, grass seed and topsoil in the immediate surrounding area. Given the nature, I mean, the one is just a light on a pole. It's already exist, so I can't imagine there would be, and it's right off the roadway. I can't imagine there would be a restoration as part of that. The other one with the pole arguably could need to be dressed up. Whether or not it would actually need to be, couldn't be determined until they were done.
I know we're looking at these separate, so.
This is the Colchester.
Similar, yeah. Statement as Sue that I drove by there after dark as well, and I thought it was fairly well lit.
In as much as what I'm all about safety, especially pedestrian safety. In that area up there, I believe we get a lot of people walking through it to get to the pathways. And in as much as you didn't have any objections to this position or this location, I make a motion that we approve the authorization for the street light at Colchester and Thorncrest intersection.
I'll support it.
I have another comment. You see, there's one letter in support for this particular streetlight. I don't want to, if residents want that, I don't have a problem, especially. But the concern here is, or the drawback would be, the one letter is from a resident whose mailing address is now Sarasota, Florida, and the area code for his phone number is also Florida. So if you're to the point where your letterhead is Sarasota, Florida, you're likely wintering there. And then the person in support is spending the time when the streetlight is really needed in the darker parts of the year out of state. So the only hesitation I have is then that's the only person we have support for as far as response. I wonder if, I don't know, I wonder if it's premature, or I would just hate to put something so permanent up with when the people that took the time to write are not here and won't be likely affected by it. But am I wrong? Am I missing something, or is that?
Nope.
I don't think so.
Are you
And
based-
and the letter of support isn't the petitioner, so we have the same, anyone that's gonna apply, we do Eric takes a look at it from an engineering perspective, goes out and, we don't make the final decision, but we can bring all the information to you to make that decision. So that's why it's before you tonight.
And I'm not, don't want to keep it if people want it. My hesitation with this particular streetlight is the people that took the time to reply are literally out of state during the time when streetlights are important. So you're making a permanent change in an area where people live out here because they don't want to live in the Grand Rapids, in the city. I guess I'm a little. At this time, I don't know if it tips the balance for me. That being said, we've got a motion and discussion, motion in a second.
I ask a question? Pretend for a moment the street light goes up and then all of the neighbors that didn't say anything come in and gosh, this thing's blinding me. I don't want it anymore. I'm assuming it doesn't get removed for $100. Do you know what it costs to have one turned off?
I think chainsaw.
Frankly, no, I don't know the cost. I know in the city particularly, they can come out and adjust lights such that the direction that they're faced or the amount of lumens they put off can be adjusted. A lot of times somebody who would make a complaint that it's too bright to begin with probably isn't happy with that particularly. But I would offer you, I believe you're correct, to get rid of the light it's more of an endeavor than just say, hey, we changed our minds.
And I think the township would bear the complete cost of the removal.
Which doesn't mean never, but the one letter's the fellow from Florida.
That is
We'd
the
like to see
response.
some more interest.
I mean, shame, poor guy, he's not even gonna enjoy his new streetlight if it were to go in,
Okay.
but his neighbors will live with it. So we've got a motion from trustee Shipley, support from trustee Rizzi. All in favor of, roll call. Clerk Slater, please call the roll for the streetlight at Colchester and Thorncrest.
Trustee Nordhook,
Hey.
Treasurer Corstange,
No.
trustee Shipley,
Yes.
trustee Nordike,
Yes.
trustee Rissy,
No.
clerk Slater, no, supervisor Lesbrunz,
No. Motion failed. Nothing against you, Eric. Let's go for the second streetlight. Whitneyville and Lily Ridge. So a little bit more rural. Discussion, questions?
How many people indicated, was it 2 people indicated support for this one and 1 against?
No,
There was the one that requested it and the letter against it.
No, on the board.
so when the responses went out, there was one
Thank you.
anti.
It's a tie.
And I will say the one that said that they did not want it, my feeling for them is their concern is that it will shine into 2 bedrooms within their home. And the fact that they moved to the area to be in a more rural area, a much darker area.
And the person who requested it, do you know if they were gonna be living nearby it? Or if it sounded like it was a more general concern for,
As best I know, they live there year round. Yeah, that's all I can offer. I have their response. I mean, in front of you are the responses I received. For the record, I don't take any of it personally. I just act on the behalf of the requests.
Just
And
your job.
I give you the best information I can, but
You're good.
completely understand your opinion on it, of course.
I have a comment. I went out and drove there last night and the writer of the email at 8590 Lily Ridge, that house is, if the suggested position of the streetlight is 100 feet south of Lily Ridge, that house is nowhere close to getting light in their bedroom windows. Other houses might get light in their bedroom windows, but not that one. When I drove down Lily Ridge and looked at that address, that was a 2-story colonial house, and at the top of every window was a light. So it didn't make any sense to me.
They can turn those off.
Sorry?
They can turn their lights off. when they're-
maybe they're sick of spending electricity.
There you go.
money on-
So it made no sense to me to put a light there for that reason. And I didn't think it was necessary either.
Eric, did the notices on this one, remind me, how many notices went out or letters went out to neighbors? Did you send a letter to everybody on Lily Ridge or is it just, okay?
Yep.
All right.
Everybody on Lily Ridge, and then there's a few houses on Whitneyville. Frankly, there's one house that the pole would be in front of, basically 100 foot south there.
Mhm.
That would be the house I actually expected them to respond and say they don't want it, because if anybody gets lights in their windows, it's probably them.
Sure.
I did not receive that response, but
How long ago did these letters go out?
I think I put it on there. For that one, it was February 18th, it was end of February last, they got about a week and a half, 2 weeks.
So that house didn't respond either way.
No, most, I mean, you have it in front, there's not many responses. It's hard to get responses. So read that as you may. Whether or not they feel strongly or not about it.
So in this case, we have the applicant, and then as far as responses, we have one against it. And they live here year round, at least their address is local. Further questions?
I was a
discussions?
bad guy last time. I'm not gonna do it again.
You know, I guess I would just say that if folks are passionate about having a streetlight put in front of their house, I'd like to see them get a large group of neighbors to come in and say yay or nay on that, so that we're not making the decision based on two people out of
Right.
12. And I think that if they can get their neighborhood together, great. And if they can't, then that probably means there isn't enough support for it.
At least to make a decision that is so
Right.
long-term and
I'm not opposed to the streetlight. I just want to make sure that we have a majority of the neighbors communicating the need for the light,
I agree.
especially if they're out of town in Florida. They might not have got the letter, you know. Maybe it was too dark, I couldn't read it.
I'll make a motion to consider the authorization for the change in the streetlight at Lily Ridge.
Support.
It's a motion by Clerk Slater, supported by Trustee Shipley, to consider authorizing the addition of a street light, the installation of a street light at Whitneyville Avenue and Lily Ridge Drive. Clerk Slater, please call the roll.
Trustee Nordike,
No.
trustee Shipley,
No.
trustee Rissy,
No,
treasurer Corstange,
No,
trustee Nordhook,
No.
clerk Slater, no, supervisor Lesbrunz.
Not at this time. Thank you, Eric. Item 024-2025. Consider approval of furniture for the Cascade branch and also the Wisner Center library refresh. Manager Smith?
Thank you, Supervisor. At the January 22nd meeting, we were before you to ask for a budget amendment and approval for the construction manager, the final construction mounts for the library refresh. You awarded us the budget amendment to include the furniture and some upgrades to the Wisner Center. So on March 11th, we went out to bid on the market for the furniture itself. We received 3 bids back. 2 of them were complete with design assistance included in their bid. One bid on some, did not bid on others. I don't want to call it an incomplete bid because there was a lot included in the bid. But it was a partial bid. And everybody was required to come to a mandatory walkthrough and spend a significant amount of time with the library staff and Dan in regards to walking the site, looking at our wants and needs, asking questions, taking measurements. And then when we received the bids, we went one step further and we actually interviewed all 3 bidders that submitted bids. At the end of the day, we are proposing and asking for approval to award the bid to 3 bidders, Custer Office Environments, Dwell Learning Environmental Specialist, and then Casper Corporation, in a total amount not to exceed $550,000. We were targeting $500,000 and I think we could probably still come under that, but we want to give ourselves a little bit of a buffer contingency. And due to the short timeline, I have to commend Lulu and Ashley and Dan. They have spent hours and hours over the course of the last 2 weeks going line by line through the bids and looking at the furniture and talking to the vendors. At the end of the day, the staff took on this role of bidding this out and doing the interviews. And we probably saved 10 to 20% of what the total cost would have been by not using a consultant to help us review the bids or to write the bids and go out and do it for us. So I just want to say thank you to Ashley and Lulu and Dan for spending a lot of time on that, because I really think we're going to be happy with the end product. I think Lulu put it best in an email earlier. The consultants that we have selected here, I think aesthetically, they've come in and are going to work with us the best, come in on time for the most part. We have a very, very short time to get these ordered and get them in. There's a big lead time on furniture, and then also come in on budget. So with that, we'll answer any questions. I've got the whole crew here tonight if there are any.
I have a question. Kind of unique to pick all three people that put in bids.
We wrote it in the bid specs that we could, it's pretty standard. You can, on something like this, you can pick multiple bidders.
So we picked all three that
No.
submitted, or did we?
So I apologize. So we did not pick all three that submitted bids. The third one, two of the bidders actually chose the same shelving vendor. And if we go directly to that shelving vendor, we're going to save significant dollars.
That makes sense.
Sorry about that.
Like, we
Yeah,
had
I-
three bidders and we picked all three of them. That's weird.
No, we had three bidders. We picked two of them. Of the three bidders that originally bid, two of them used the same shelving supplier. I guess, and Lulu, you may want to speak to this more. They kind of have the corner on the market. They have municipal pricing. They have a much larger bid that they've won that's bigger than just what Cascade went out to bid with. So if we buy directly from them through their consortium, their purchasing consortium, we're going to save significant dollars,
Okay. That,
tens of
That-
thousands of
that
dollars.
makes more sense.
Sorry, I left.
We have three bids and we took them all.
Yep, nope, we did not. We did not.
And then, my only other question, just since we are using, thought we were using three, but we're using two different designers, everything's gonna look like it belongs though, right?
Yeah, so some of the one area that's going to be a little different is what we call the KDL lab space. And I'll actually invite Ashley up because she has a background in childhood education. So there's a certain way that we need a lab space in a library to be designed. We don't want tables with sharp corners. There's a certain way that storage has to be, and also people steal stuff in a library. So
No.
keeping all those things, I know, keeping all those things in mind, we wanted to make sure that that space, since it's very particular, and what we use it for, has the right furniture. So that's one pretty small piece of it. Outside of that, there are very few companies, like Jade said, that do shelving. And the furniture companies, as we went through the walkthroughs, they made it pretty clear that this is who they're gonna rely on. So the shelving company actually saved us quite a bit. I think it was an instant $10,000 savings if we just ordered directly ourselves. But Ashley, if you want to talk about why we would do Keo tables with.
Oh,
mine
sure.
instead. Mhm.
Hi, I'm Ashley. Exciting to be up. Usually I'm in the background. So we did a lot of research line by line on the individual items. With the Keo tables, we've looked at that furniture before, probably for the last 2 to 3 years, thinking that we could buy it like separately if we needed to. But that type of furniture, Mean is the corporate or the company, but they are in a lot of schools and a lot of like school library areas, not so much academic libraries or more of the public library space. But it is at the right height. It also has a lot of storage that we would need. So we were looking at from a user perspective, when we have our programs, how can we transition kids from all of the exciting programming that they're having out into the space to get them to play a little longer with their families and build on those early literacy skills.
Beyond that, the way that furniture is purchased is a little nuanced. So there are certain lines that they won't cross. So if you want a very specific table, that table, unfortunately, Custer will not order. It has to fit within the steel case.
We
line.
tried.
Yes.
We asked.
Yes, and they don't have anything like it, so.
So who will actually install the shelving? The shelving company?
Yes.
That would be,
Yes.
or Casper Core.
Mhm.
I'm just curious, does KDL contribute at all to the cost of the furniture in the library, or is that solely funded by the township? I know we own the building and we pay for the building and the maintenance, but does the library participate at all with the shelving?
No, not with the shelving. What KDL will provide is like ergonomic furniture for staff, things like shelving carts, the stuff that the public really doesn't think about that we need to use to get things on the shelf. All of our equipment that we use and that the public uses as well, from the printers to all the PCs that we provide. And then beyond that, usually that's when the Friends of the Library will kick in for specialty items. So the Friends have approved about $40,000-ish, which that's also come towards Jade and everybody else. But recently, during their board meeting, they wanted to provide a nice house structure. So what we don't have in our play space is a large house structure. A lot of the larger KDL branches have one. Those pieces are at least $25,000 for an 8-foot by 8-foot box. But the Friends are gonna supply that, and then that'll be something that arrives hopefully late August, because it takes about 16 to 18 weeks to build.
And we purposely left that out of the furniture bid so that we could ask the Friends, so that we could make sure that we were getting everything under budget.
Mhm.
We learned a lot in the, like, librarians are great at research. We looked up every single
Yes.
item with and then did comparisons. Our spreadsheets are amazing. If anybody wants to see it.
Glad you guys aren't asking for a cut yet, or
Oh.
Oh, for
No.
a cut.
We
the
just want
overhead
nice
percentage. I know,
things.
that's good. We appreciate your work, especially
Oh,
you
thank
too,
you.
Dan. You guys have put a lot of time into it.
Got a question. I know it's difficult to say what the future brings, okay? And I know that this refresh is supposed to bring in the enhancements that people nowadays need in a public library. It's no longer just checking out a book. In your crystal ball that you had, how far down the road will this refresh last? Are we looking at another refresh in 10 years, 15 years, 20 years? Is there any way you could guess? Not holding you to your guess.
What I would love to see long-term would be just a plan. And I think just seeing the support that we're receiving from the township or from township staff, it feels like things are just being taken care of so well. So I would love to not go another 25 years and not to like find out that the dishwasher doesn't work or that there's a giant stain in a carpet that's been there for 10 years. But I also feel really confident in our ability to make sure that we communicate our needs and working directly with Dan. He's so responsive. So,
And
Well-
part of the reason that we chose giving the majority of the bid to one company over the other was their warranties.
mhm.
So when it comes to furniture breakage, we know that the furniture will likely make it past 3 years, but if there's a 5-year warranty, then we're gonna pursue that so that we don't have to try to figure out a long-term, I mean, we will want a long-term plan.
Yeah, I
But-
think if I can jump in on that too.
Oh, yeah.
I think part of some of you may have heard me say it before when we started to go down the path of this refresh and looking at the budget and then looking at the scope of the project. And the scope, for whatever reason, some time ago, it was never looked at from a holistic perspective. So it was only looked at as an interior refresh. But there's a lot of other preventative maintenance that should have been done to this building and a lot of other things that probably should have been done on the outside of this building. HVAC, the roof, parking lot. Some of those things we have worked with the board who has approved. For instance, the parking lot got redone last year. We got some improvements done to the roof, but so putting together the proper maintenance plan moving forward. And then also, you know, as with all of our buildings, that's what we have to do to make sure that we don't run into this where we're every 20 years, we're making these major updates. Let's look at it on a more continual basis. Some of the things to your question too, looking at some of the furniture, the world has changed and some of the furniture that we've looked at are they all have, some of them have like electrical components in them. So like power is not going to be, I mean, all of that stuff was addressed with this furniture bid, which are things that I don't think that I thought of, but then when we saw what they propose, power is there, flexibility, movement of some of the furniture so you can be flexible within your space because people don't just come down and read a book anymore. They want to get comfortable. And I learned a lot about furniture in the last month. I think we all did.
We learned about the number of times somebody can sit in a seat, for
Yeah.
example, 200,000 times.
Yeah.
Besides like new carpet, new wall coverings, that kind of stuff, what are some of the big changes that you guys are looking for as far as usage and space and that kind of stuff?
The biggest thing that came out as we started really moving forward with this project was intentional design, looking at how the building was originally designed and how people use the space. So having carved out intentional spaces for everyone is what a lot of the adults that are coming in and they're like, oh, what's going on? What's happening? We're telling them, hey, the children, they're going to have their own section. Some of the people would squeal with joy because of the noise sometimes when kids are playing, which is really important social emotional learning, especially for their age. It directly conflicts with an adult who's coming for a quiet space. who just wants to get work done, or they have an important medical appointment that they're here and just need to connect to the Wi-Fi for. So that's probably the biggest thing, is that the kids get to have a space where they get to be kids, they get to have their own area. And that for anyone who's using the library just quickly to do printing or just to have a quiet space to relax, there's going to be more of that. Beyond that, the bathrooms are a huge portion of this refresh. So having a family restroom in the children's area, having a lactation room or a mother's room is going to be really great. Having a single occupancy stall as well that's available for people. I think it's just going to make a huge, huge difference.
I'm looking forward to the fireplace too. Like some of the nice aesthetics of walking into your home. It's gonna have that warm, cozy feel. And so we laid out some of the samples so that you can kind of see the color palette that is coming. You can also see it on the township website. But I think people are really gonna enjoy it. And it is designed to have different spaces for people to be able to find their own either cozy nook or a place to collaborate. But we intentionally look for furniture that could be flexible, movable, could change as the library changes so that we don't have to replace it often.
And if I can interject, is I think when we were looking at the furniture, I think today's modern trend is to make it look like you entered a spaceship or something. And I think we did a good job, especially those two, is it's still, when you walk in the library, it's still going to feel like Cascade. And I think that's in the design portion of it, that's something that we really look like. Yeah, there's going to be some things that are going to be brighter and look better, but yet it's still going to have that cozy feeling like this is Cascade. So, we kind of wanted to stay that way. So.
Honestly, yeah, and then more features. We don't ask for much.
No, we really appreciate all the work that you guys have been putting in behind the scenes, and timing wise, these vendors can keep up with the schedule too.
It's gonna be really tight. As Lulu put it last week, we'll probably have the soft opening on June 9th with more to come, but tomorrow morning, there will be an order. Pending approval, there will be an order going in tomorrow.
We were also intentional with lead times. So anytime anybody was presenting anything, they needed to know our time and time frame. We asked them not to show us things that couldn't be delivered within a reasonable amount of time, which also meant that there was some choice, that there was also an additional tariff that we didn't know about ahead of time. So
we eliminated
it. So at each juncture, we looked for within the budget, making sure that things are on time, making sure that things look nice.
There are 5 things I think that may be delivered after the June 1st deadline, and there are 3 display cabinets. So if you've come into the library before, community members will sign up to display their own personal collections. Those will arrive maybe 2 or 3 weeks after the other things. Everything else, from what Custer is saying, they'll be placing their orders Friday morning, assuming that you guys approve it, that they're confident that everything will arrive.
I make a motion that we approve the furniture for the Cascade branch of the Kent District Library and Wisner Center as discussed, and that's all I have to say.
That's a motion by trustee Shipley, supported by treasurer Porstange, to approve the selection of the mentioned furniture providers as presented, not exceeding 550,000. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carried. Thank you. Thanks for all your time and effort. Next, item 025-2025. Consider approval of Parks and Facilities Department Tractor. And the next 3 items are all related, so we'll address them separately, but Manager Smith and Director Zwick.
Yeah, just a quick comment, and then I'll turn it over to Dan. On January 8th, we had the discussion about some equipment that was needed. The board had asked us to go back, put that list together. There was a budget amendment of $179,000 that was allocated for additional equipment for the Parks and Facilities Department. The 2 items that you have before you tonight, not counting the pickup truck, that's actually part of the CIP that was approved separately. So I'll talk about that one in a separate section. But the first 2 came in over the $25,000 threshold that required us to go out to bid for a formal bid and come back before the board for approval. So with that, those are those two, the tractor and the utility field rake, are direct results of the needs discussion that was on January 8th. Part of our review process and part of what I missed on the RBAs, I mentally said to put it in there and I forgot to do it, but I did figure it out. Both of those items, the estimated costs that were presented to you on January 8th, these are actually less than what was presented. The tractor was estimated to come in at $60,000. And then the ride-on utility field rake was estimated to come in at $30,000. So at this rate, we're not expending all the dollars that actually were allocated. With that, I'll turn it over to Dan or.
Can I give a little background before Dan, just to lead up, because you started when, September?
Yeah, beginning of October.
So the maintenance, and particularly at Cascade Rec Park, had been a source of ongoing complaints, and the Parks Committee knew that it was an issue, but lack of maintenance, complaints about maintenance. So the Parks Committee did their part in coming up with that strategic long-term plan, a master plan, which is what was presented at the last board meeting or 2 board meetings ago. But that was all before your time. And then when you came in, showing you the master plan, getting you up to speed on what the issues were, I believe you had said there's a lot that can be done just as far as maintaining, improving what we have that hasn't been done because nobody's done it and didn't have the equipment. So then we said, what do you need? If you had what you needed, you know, you'd be surprised at how much better we could make it as is, not just redoing it, but really just doing the long overdue deferred maintenance. So then we asked you to put together a list of what items you needed, right?
Correct.
Then we did the budget amendment list, and then fast forward, here we are. So it's not directly related to that master plan that was presented to the board a couple times fairly recently, but this is kind of separate, just maintenance items that we asked you to compile.
Correct.
With that, go ahead. I'm sorry. I just want to give more background. Separate it from the master plan that we saw previously.
We can start with the tractor. You know, 2 of them were very close, the John Deere and the New Holland. And then we had a Kubota. One of the things that was talked about in that January meeting, are there things we can trade in? So we decided that we have a 2006 John Deere tractor that we felt was a good time to trade it in. We got $23,750 trade-in value on that, which I think is fantastic. And then that led us to selecting the John Deere, which was the lowest bid for $28,915. John Deere, the company is Greenmark. They're in Jenison. I've dealt with them in the past. They do a fantastic job. So I'm recommending the John Deere tractor.
Comments, questions? Scott?
Make a motion to approve the purchase of the John Deere tractor as presented.
Support.
It's a motion by trustee Rizzi, supported by trustee Shipley. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carried. Next, item 026-2025. This would be for the ride-on utility field rake. Director Zwick?
So once again, we went out, I had 3 bids on those, and the Smithco field rake was the lowest bid at $27,275. We just redid the had the softball fields renovated. We're in the final stages of that right now. So this piece of equipment, which in my estimation will be approximately probably 7 years in the department before we'd have to even look at trading it in or anything. We may get more out of that, but I don't see anything less. Will help us maintain those fields. That field rake can not only, it can rake, but there's a nail drag on the bottom, which we drag the fields with, which helps with the weeds, which if we don't have as many weeds, we don't have to make pesticide applications. And then it has a level on the front of it, so whenever you're playing softball, you'll get depressions and those type of things. We'll use the level. We have the sand volleyball court, which we can use that over there, which has never been touched, so we can start working on that. And then if there's some small little projects that we had to maybe push a little dirt or it's tough to get larger pieces of equipment, we could use that over there. So it's also very cost effective. If you just have one person out there can do all these things compared to multiple people if you went an alternative route.
But less, like the attachment, the less expensive. Like this is, sorry, this one's a separate,
This is all one machine.
all one machine, so it's not, this is not just an attachment, right? Like,
No, it's all, this is a self-contained machine.
How much time will it take to get the product?
Hopefully a month.
So
Get good use out of it this season.
I think you raised your hand first, but
oh, well, thank you. So obviously this is more than what I had foreseen it to be because you're saving the labor costs. One person can do it. And you can use it in multiple places instead of just the softball fields.
Correct.
Thank you.
I mentioned in January, I struggled with this one because I know that Ada Township and then also the Thornapple Valley Baseball League, they have a lot more play on their fields than we have, and they're getting the job done with a piece of equipment that's significantly less expensive. And I don't have a problem with our township having great equipment, but I do have a little concern with investing in this particular piece of equipment at this time, given the fact that we don't even have anybody playing on those fields. When the fields in our nearby community that get all the use are getting the job done with a piece of equipment that, you know, costs a fraction of this. I think they pay like around $1,000 for their sand drag. So that was my only hesitation right now with all the other improvements we're making. So that's just my.
Director, can you go over that too, because I know we've made a lot of changes,
Reservations.
reservations changes, or do you
So-
anticipate the use being the same as what it's been in prior years?
So in prior years, first of all, there was no rental fee. People just went out there and played. If anybody saw that, it was, those fields weren't even fields. So now that they're in the renovation stage. Sydney and myself.
We couldn't give them away.
Couldn't give them away. Sydney and myself have worked hard with soccer rentals, but now with softball rentals. In April, May, and June, I'm gonna say 5 to 6 days a week from, let's say 3, 4 in the afternoon, those fields will be rented. So that cost, which I've always talked about, rentals, those fees will be, you know, we'll talk with finance, but we'll put those into a pot that hopefully we can flip back for maintenance. So those fields are gonna get more use than they probably ever have in Cascade Township.
How many people are you planning on coming in every day? 200, 300 people a day?
No, I mean, right now, we have a high school baseball team that practices out there from 3:30 to 5:30. And then moving forward, we have 2 or 3 travel baseball teams that'll practice from like 6 to 8 or 6 to 9. They'll do a little bit on Sunday. I don't think right now we have anything on Saturday, so it's mainly just evenings. So, you know, it is still gonna be open during the day and times when we don't have rentals for the public to use. Right now, I have not had any requests for rentals in the summer. I'd like to see a balance of, for sure, that, you know, township residents, that they can use that field, but also the balance of, hey, let's rent them rather than have them sit there, and let's make some money to be able to put back into maintenance.
Okay, but based on your plans, are you trying to get 2, 3, 4, 500 people a day
No,
renting? What is your goal?
no.
How many people?
I mean, right now, we have, like I said, we have maybe 2 or 3 teams in evening through June. And other than that, I don't have any other plans. One thing I'm being very cautious of is I don't want to take too big of a step. I want to take baby steps and kind of go through the process and see how this works out. But as of right now, I don't have any plans of running softball tournaments on the weekends, adult softball or anything like that. Now, not to say in the future that we couldn't, but I'm being very cautious and kind of see what the balance is out there for everyone.
So where I'm going with this is supporting facilities, so like bathrooms. How many stalls do we have in the women's bathroom? How many people are you planning on bringing into this party? Am I gonna have women standing in line 15, 20 deep, trying to get into a two-holer?
No,
Maybe if you're
Well-
playing, Timmy, and they.
I take all three of my strengths. But,
I don't know.
and then again, drain field size, are we gonna, do we have supporting, infrastructure to support the number of people you're trying to bring in?
I don't, but
But these are real questions.
I just have a comment. It's not so much answering the question. I think what Dan and his staff are doing right now they are fixing a problem of the fields that was already here. We're not creating new fields. What we're doing is creating a safe place for people to actually play.
To make them.
Whether
useful.
that is outside teams or Cascade residents, Cascade preschools. I mean, I think that the goal was, and I think through this master plan process that was started a little bit too premature for Rec Park, was let's fix what we have and maintain what we have before we start to go down a path of looking at how many restrooms do we need? Do we need to increase the number of fields? Do we need to scratch the fields? So I think that if I go back, 6, 8 months ago when this conversation started, I think that's where we were at. And that's how we ended up right here. So to say that we have a goal of 500 people a day, that's never going to happen because we only have 2 fields first. Second, I don't think that we have the capacity to manage that. I have 6 guys in parks and facilities. I can't manage 500 people coming into the park.
6 guys that cover the entire township.
Right. So I think we have to, I understand there's questions about the equipment that's before you tonight for consideration, but I think the actual operations of the park is a whole different. I don't want to say wait and see because I don't like to say that because I think we want to be more proactive, but I think this is taking those baby steps to fix a problem and then to say, oh, wow, there is a demand, or nope, no one is using this. We need to pivot and go a different direction.
I just want to put it out there so that we know that there's more to it than just grading fields.
I'm well aware, I'm well aware of that. I think that the discussions that the Board of Trustees have had in the past is fix what's broke. That's what we're doing. That was our marching orders.
The lack of maintenance and the need to maintain what we have has been the number one source of complaint by residents. When people reach out to complain, that has been the biggest complaint. Tassel Park. The rec park was just everybody complained about that. Everybody knew, but the only difference was up until late October, everyone brings their strengths. But I will say staffing wise, Cascade Township did not have the capacity to even tackle the maintenance issue. So it was waiting to find the right people. And people in the past have had their own strengths, but that wasn't one of them. And the glaring elephant in the room was fix what we have. Don't just rebuild or redo stuff. And Dan, I will say this, like that's one thing that you have strengthened, and I'm not gonna Monday morning quarterback your decisions because you've done a fantastic job. I mean, the split rail fence went up along the Camelback stretch of the pathway without us. It was just, stuff is getting done that hasn't been done. And we're sitting here for 4 years taking complaints, but internally wise, we did not have the capacity. Same with Lauren, financial director. You got to get the right people in before you can start doing it. So.
and I don't want to get sidetracked here, but I want to tell you, expand on what you're saying there is I have 2 employees. Chuck used to be a full-time employee, he's a part-time employee. Jason's been here close to 10 years, okay? When we came from our previous position, Sid was our field maintenance manager. And she took them today and we were putting the bases out, so it's digging them out. We have cement anchors, it's measuring, it's very precise. But what was neat is you had 2 guys that had been here a long time. They had no idea what, if I would have said, go out and do that, they'd still be out there. But they were so willing to learn
They wanna
and to learn and to see like, hey, this is cool what we're doing. And so those are the things that I enjoy seeing as the director of the department.
There was such a sense of frustration from the buildings and grounds crew themselves because their hands were tied because they knew stuff needed to be done, but there wasn't the ability or the the leadership or the equipment to do it. You can always sit back and throw stones. People send emails on a Monday morning when it snowed on a Saturday, wondering why buildings and grounds hasn't got out there and plowed their section of the pathway. Like, you don't work evenings, they don't work weekends. I'm not gonna penny pinch. You've done a fantastic job, and I think you're responding to what we requested you to do. And these maintenance purchases, these necessary purchases for maintenance are saving so much money in doing it the right way and thinking on long term, not just, penny wise, pound foolish, but you're thinking long term. I think it's good.
Everybody wants to say Scott's next, then.
Dan, I like your baby step plan. I think that's a good approach. My only question here, I guess, that's left would be, I look at those softball fields and I think to myself, gee, would irrigation or a scoreboard or something like that go in be a better use of, would this money be a better use on something like that than this? Is this the best bang for what you're trying to accomplish right now?
At this time, that's the biggest bang for our buck because we have to start with maintenance first
Yeah.
and then
Okay.
start looking at those other things down the road.
But irrigation is up there and we're looking at that through a separate path,
It is.
separate funding source.
I would like to say that quality is remembered long after the price is forgotten. And I think that we should get quality equipment. It's the principle of if you build it, they will come. And if we fix it, they will come. I like your idea of baby steps. And let's see how it goes.
And and I want to say this too, it's not going to be just about rentals. It's going to be hopefully in the future. I know the schools run Little League and that stuff, but I'm hoping to do like T-ball clinics for little kids and stuff like that. But once again, this is a great piece of machinery. And I will say this is that one of the key factors in infield maintenance is safety. We don't want bad hops. And this machine will really help with that. My previous job, we had 2 of them and that's all we used. But I'm a big proponent on safety for anybody that's ever out there playing. I can't say there's never going to be a bad hop, but this piece of equipment helps with that too.
I make a motion that we approve the.
John, we've got a lot of other
Sorry.
questions yet.
I just got skipped with my previous.
I
thing. This
apologize.
totally jumped in before
Okay.
me.
I'll go back to sleep now.
I just have a list of things, not necessarily questions, but just points, I guess, that have said that one, we don't currently have a rake, correct?
Correct.
We're putting maintenance or money into fixing the infields. We need a rake of some sort. Everyone has commented on how well the facilities were where you came from. We have all talked about, this is what we want to see here. It is the #1 complaint, I feel like recently that we have heard from residents are the parks and facilities and wanting them to be maintained, especially the maintenance of them. We did approve this budget for this in the January meeting. This will save time for your staff. And this is under budget from what we did approve back in January. So unless anybody else has any questions, or go ahead.
Yeah, Supervisor Westbrook, I have a couple of questions for Director Zwick and a few for Manager Smith, if I could be indulged. Thank you. The sand rink, you heard Trustee Rissy ask or mention a drag behind. I know that like Thornapple Baseball League has one that, we priced it out. It was like $900. They've been using since 1988. And they accommodate a lot more softball leagues than we do. Is there a reason we need a $27,000 piece of equipment that you told us in January that would last for 10 years versus a $900 piece of equipment? I can't do the math, 88 to 2024. a lot more than 10 years? Is there a reason we need $27,000 versus $1,000?
I can't speak for piece of machinery they have. I'm just gonna say, if you go back 20 years ago, you'd go by a local high school and they'd have a pickup truck with an old mattress box spring dragon, okay? Through time, we've progressed. And this is when you're maintaining athletic fields to a good standard, this is where we progressed to. Like I said, I can't speak for what they have. I don't know what they have, so I can't really comment on that.
But a pole behind wouldn't be an option because we're talking about just Cascade Rec Park, right?
Correct.
Sand, right? And just 2 ball fields and a volleyball field. Do I have that correct?
Correct. And there may be some other small uses for the machine too.
But would a pole behind not fit the application?
In my opinion, no, because
Okay.
we want to maintain those things to a higher standard. And secondly, like I stated before, it's a one-person show out there. It's that machine can do multiple things with one person. It's not labor intensive.
Got it. Thank you so much.
Yep.
I appreciate the question. Manager Smith, if you remember on January 8th, we had a lot of back and forth. I thought it was really good dialogue. But there was a lot. So I went back and listened to the recording. And there was something I want to read to you and then I have a follow-up question to it. And this is a direct quote from you. Trustee Rissy, with your expertise, there will be lots of conversations and vetting with you before we bring this before the board. Give us your opinion. We are not doing this in a silo. Of course, we want the support of the board. Can you tell me how many times you and Director Zwick have talked to Trustee Rissy about these things?
Well, about this particular item,
About
Zero.
any of the things that were relating to the park purchase that we discussed in January?
0.
Thank you.
I've-
That's all I have.
I make a motion to approve the purchase of the ride-on utility field rake.
Shipley Sports.
That's a motion by Clerk Slater, supported by Trustee Shipley to approve the purchase of the field rake. All in favor? Aye. Opposed?
Okay.
Nay.
Motion carried. Last item 027-2025. Consider approval of the 3/4 ton pickup truck. It's Director Zwick or Manager Smith. This is a little different, right?
So just to remind everybody, this has nothing to do with the purchases for the park equipment that was previously discussed. This came right directly out of the 5-year capital improvement plan. This is a budgeted item for 2025, so we're looking for approval.
So this is a budgeted item, just like the fire department forecasts replacement of vehicles or additional vehicles as required, and it's in the budget.
Correct.
And it's under budget.
Is this vehicle replacing another vehicle or is it an additional vehicle? I thought the way I read the packet, it looked like it was an additional vehicle because we have additional staff.
That's back when the CIP was put together, the decision was made to replace some equipment and increase the number of equipment that we had. Because what we had was very outdated and rusty. Some of it was sent to auction.
I guess my only question here is I noticed that, I mean, essentially you're ordering up a regular snowplow truck, but I didn't see anything in there for plows for it. Are we planning to have it upfitted with plows or at this time, is it just essentially going to be a people mover?
No, it will be, yes. It will be, upcooked with a plow and lights and everything like that.
Okay, all right. But that's not part of this
No,
proposal.
it's more cost effective to do it, off market than through the dealer.
All right, I understand that. So okay, and then, I mean, there wasn't an updated roster of vehicles or anything in the packet. You said some vehicles into auction. Do you know what we've disposed of since?
I can go back and find out. I don't have it.
I'm assuming it was probably the old dump truck. That's what we had talked about, I think.
There was an inventory list that was provided back.
At the January 8th meeting, I'm looking at it right now, and I think it shows we have,
We were getting ready to take the old dump to auction.
okay,
I will say this is that one of the biggest issues when I came here was, that, we couldn't get people around. And as the staff grows, we need people movers. We were losing more time running people from point A to point B, drop them off, go back over here. And, you know, this is one of the issues that we've had in the Parks Department is it's going to take a while to catch up because we're so far behind.
I understand. When I look at this, I see a list of about, looks like 8 plow trucks. I'm not including your bucket truck or your dump trucks. And so this way I think we'll put you around 9. Given the size of our township, would it make more sense for you to have like have some, you know, I don't know, maybe like a 1/2-ton pickup or like a Chevy Colorado or Ford Ranger, something like that for moving people around, or a UTV in the mix of your fleet of vehicles as opposed to every vehicle being a 3/4 or 1-ton plow truck?
I will say that this was put in the CIP before I came here, but that is one of the things that I will look at in the future. Where I came from, we had 3/4-ton trucks for, any full-time employee had a 3/4-ton truck was their plow truck. They had their own toolbox in it. But we also had 1/2-ton trucks to move people around. But right now, we're trying to catch up with plow trucks and those type of 3/4-ton trucks. And then I think in the future, when we look at the CIP, we'll look at stuff like that.
Okay, I'm a little hesitant on this in part because I feel like we have I feel like our township is over-equipped in the snow plow department for the area it has to plow and perhaps under-equipped in the day-to-day, I gotta drive between the library and the park and the fire station, you know, vehicle. I think we could use a more efficient, less expensive vehicle for that daily transportation need. But that's my thought on it.
Do you think so, Dr. Zick, or it seems like it's?
Well, I think right now this is, I mean, you're going down the right road, but the road right now is we need
Yeah.
this 3/4-ton truck to get us where we need to be.
You're gonna plow snow with a 10-speed transmission?
What electric car? They were handing them out at state level fire.
That has a very bad
Department.
history.
There's a very bad record on those.
Why a Chevy and not a Ford? The rest of the township fleet is Ford. I don't have a preference. I'm just asking because like things like
What?
plows are interchangeable.
No, I think the last 2 vehicles we got were Fords, but we do have some older Chevys. The reason was it was a couple $1,000s cheaper. I don't.
That
I
was
have
with the municipal pricing. Did you ask them for the current rebate on any everyday pricing? Because you don't have to buy at municipal pricing.
The Ford was at municipal pricing. The Chevy was directly through the dealer, giving them our best deal.
And have you asked the Ford dealer for the same?
It was through my deal, so that's.
So you
the
haven't
bottom-
asked a Ford dealer for the same then? You've gone through my deal, which is fine. I want to be really clear. We're not comparing apples to apples. You are doing an everyday price on the Chevy. You didn't do that for the Ford. You went to my deals for that. Is that correct?
Correct.
Thank you.
Is there a reason why we use the Ford dealer that's out of our area as opposed to one that's in our area?
Because that truck was priced through my deal.
Okay. All right. Didn't anybody check with the local Ford dealer to see if they had a comparable deal to what the local Chevy dealer had?
We did not.
Thank you.
Additional concerns, comments, questions? Motions?
One question, just timing wise, in your opinion, given the questions that have come up about this, Is this something you need for the spring season that we need to be moving on, or is this something that we can go back and ask the local dealership for their pricing?
Well, once again, I need trucks to get people around, and I look at it, it was in the CIP from, it was projected from last year. I weren't in on those discussions, but I know what I came into and I know what we need. You know, the Chevy dealer has it on the lot right now, so.
Are you sure if the Ford dealer doesn't have it on the lot? I mean, this could come up at the next meeting.
If we would like, we can actually go back and revisit and make the phone calls to the local dealerships if that's what the board would like.
I mean, it's not our money. Right? We need to be good stewards of the taxpayers.
I think that the way this pricing came up, and Dan, correct me if I'm wrong, is that the My Deal awarded it to that particular dealership. When we called them, they said, we actually can do one better. We have better pricing on our lot that we can give you.
Every
from
dealer
in-
does that. Why aren't we, that's why we should do it with the Ford. So yeah, I think my personal opinion is, let's see if we can get a lower price. Let's see if we can be good stewards of our citizens' money.
Generally, are the Ford and Chevy's comparable prices, or is it? I know we have it, just generally speaking.
In I'm going by what they've done in the past, is they've gone through My Deal, and 3 vehicles we purchased last year were through My Deal.
Mhm.
I said to them, okay, we priced the Ford through My Deal. I said, let's just price a Chevy for the heck of it through a Chevy dealer here. And the Chevy dealer was cheaper. So that's how that all derived. But if you want us to go back and revisit this again, I mean, I can.
I would be more interested in, I guess, having a better idea of what vehicle we're looking to replace
I
and
can
what
tell
are
you
roster
that.
vehicles, because I mean,
I can tell you that.
okay, because
This one is replacing a truck number 5 that was a 2014.
Yeah,
That
I'm-
was refurbished in 2019 and is ending its useful life.
I'm comfortable with I think we have a fleet that needs to be replaced. I think that's obvious. And I think that long-term, when you talk about people movers, I think that that's something that might come up later when you look to trade in or get rid of some of these old vehicles, then maybe then you can replace them with some sort of people mover versus a pickup truck. But I think right now we do need to replace some pickup trucks. I'm okay with waiting in 2 weeks and see.
you had mentioned that we have 6 staff members right now.
6.5.
I thought that's what Jade said a few minutes ago. And
I may have misquoted myself. I don't want
Okay.
him to quote me on that.
All right.
But I believe we have 6 active employees in building and grounds,
Do not
parks and facilities.
Include the temporary spring.
They does not include temporary, which we're heading
I
into that
understand.
season.
But the temporary summer people wouldn't be running snow plows. They'd be,
No, but we don't have a full 6.
Yeah, but we also use a 3/4 ton truck to haul around our excavator, our big enclosed trailer, those type of things too, so.
I'm counting 7 here. You're talking about replacing one of the 7 with a new one. I guess I'm just trying to grasp this because I'm, I want to get familiar with it. So. Okay. I think that we should look at a long-term strategy here that, I'd like to you said, when we were talking about vehicles maybe that aren't specific to plowing snow, but to moving people around. I think we're weighed real heavy on one side versus the other.
But see, to what you're saying there has never been a strategy.
Right.
And so
Right.
now
Right.
I can't, I'm trying to come up with a strategy.
Yeah.
It just,
I'm agreeing
know,
with you, Dan.
so.
On strategy.
I also think you're also asking him, do we really need this pickup? And when I'm looking at the numbers of how old these are, we have which one is this replacing? You said the 2012 or 11?
14.
14. But we have a 2012 pickup truck and 2 2014 pickup trucks, which to me, all of those ultimately will have to be replaced when we're talking about our fleet of, let's say, I'm gonna make up a number, 6 plow trucks. So I think the need for the truck is not in question, in my opinion. It's just the tough discussion about the pricing.
How much time would you lose if this doesn't get settled this evening? How much more hassle is it for you if you have to?
Well, and to be honest, the Chevy
Logistically move
the
people around.
dealership could sell this truck tomorrow. Cause you said it's on the lot.
Correct.
Right.
I mean,
I mean, that's,
There's that.
that's the key that we're talking about is, you know, we can go to a Ford dealer tomorrow and they might have one on the lot and hopefully they'll still have it at the next board meeting. But the question is, right now, there's one on the lot that we
Yep.
could potentially purchase, but if we wait 2 weeks, it might not be there. I mean, it's part of the
And,
game.
and the rebates probably end at the end of the month.
And so process wise, traditionally, it's, you go through municipalities go through my deal because they have that option. It's generally better pricing. Which-
Correct.
So that was,
Generally.
so like in the normal course of business for municipalities, you go through my deal. They direct you to this dealership,
Yes.
get the best, which would generally be the
I
best
mean-
price. But in this case, they said, well, we can do better with this
I mean,
particular rebate.
Realistically, that dealer could be in, Mackinac City. I mean, it just depends who's, gonna give you the best price, so.
And a lot of people, most people would just go to MDO and that'd be it, right? Through MDO.
That's all they've done in the past.
Yeah.
And again, the one sitting on the lot that is the lowest bid, sitting there. Could be fine.
Sounds to me like Dan has already really done his homework. That we should go for it.
One of the things that you'll hear me say is that with the Parks Department, moving forward, we have to come up with a better plan of how we deal with all equipment. And, one of the things I'll say right off the bat is that to get the biggest bang for your buck is with 3/4 ton trucks, you trade them out in 6 years. Okay? Because we felt in my previous job, we did the research on it. And if you extend them out longer, that trade value drops. Half ton, you may go maybe 7, depending on how many miles they have on it. But when you start extending those out too long, then you don't get a bang for your buck. But if you go about it that 6-year range, trade them in, you get great trade-in value, and then you're continually recycling your vehicles, so.
I make a motion to approve the Parks and Facilities Department 3/4 ton pickup truck purchase.
Support. It's a motion by Clerk Slater, supported by Treasurer Corstange to approve the purchase of the 3/4 ton pickup truck as presented. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed?
Nay.
Motion carried. Good discussion. Having no more items of business, now is the time for public comments, whether it was on tonight's agenda or in anything. So welcome. Please state your name and address for the record, and we appreciate you being here.
Once again, good evening, board. My name is Captain Ted Wilson. I live on Cascade Road. If you need the exact number, it's 8172. I've lived here over 30 years. My concern is graffiti in the township. It seems to be increasing. Some of it is old. I've stopped into the offices a couple of times to mention it. One time I seem to recall that it was kind of a joint problem between the township and Kent County Road Commission because of where I've seen it. I don't care whose problem it is. It's time to address the graffiti. Once I mentioned some, it got painted over. It was tagged again. When it got painted over the second time, whoever's doing the tagging quit. This time they seem emboldened, and the places I've seen it seem to be main thoroughfares that enter Cascade Township. So some is by Cascade Township Park. Others are between the park and the airport, like along 36th Street. Some is on Whitneyville Road. I've taken some photographs that I can leave with you. I would appreciate if the township could get to it or encourage the county to get to it. I have a lot of time off. Give me a bucket of paint and a brush. I'll take care of it on my days off. But my fear is that whoever's doing the tagging will be emboldened to do more if we don't start correcting it. I grew up in a neighborhood that had a lot of it. We don't want that here. It gets started, it gets worse, brings down the property values. We don't want that here. There's been a lot of discussion about the parks, and with some of the stuff being so close to Cascade Park, you know, what's the use in having a nice park if it looks like someone who doesn't care about the community is trying to claim the park for themselves? That's all I have to say. If you like the pictures, I can leave them with you. And thanks for listening.
Thank you. Thanks for coming.
Just leave this here.
Yeah, thank you very much.
Hi, Ann England, 3415 Glenstone Court Southeast. And I just was looking to maybe get an update regarding compliance visits with our neighbor to the south of us. Now that springtime is here, we're just looking to see who's taking that over from Madison and see if there's anything scheduled to kind of keep track of where that's at with the previous Eagle violations.
And have you had any contact with,
Right.
and yeah,
Yes,
Ryan
yes, I
Sennett?
did talk to him once, but it was in the winter time, so,
Okay,
you know, it would have been impossible for him to really kind of see what's going on over there. That's a little more obvious now, so,
okay. Thank you.
okay, thank you.
Thank you. Welcome.
I just want to make sure it was there too. Hi, I'm Mary Ann Shaftma, 2471 Burton Woods Court. Thank you for having this meeting. Let us be a part of it. Everything's going great in our park. There hasn't been any issues to my knowledge. I just have a question, because I'm glad you're here, sir, Mr. Zwick. On the Windcrest entrance to the park, there's a small area for pedestrians to come to. There's a little bike rack. And I'm seeing these tracks that look like a car is coming through this tiny little area. It looks like a tiny pickup truck. And I didn't know if there were any maintenance things or plows going through there, but and
It
I
was,
was not trying to complain. I was just wondering, you know, because there's people that go back there on electric bikes and I'm just like tunnel vision. I don't want to get involved. I don't want to fight with anyone, but I had a question.
it is not vehicles, it is maintenance equipment. and
Oh, okay.
We've been working on that side.
No,
of the
no,
park too,
totally
so-
cool. I just wanted to
Yep.
make sure
Yep,
that it
it's-
wasn't like, you know, not or something. Other than that, I love our parks. Peace out.
Thank you.
Hi there, Scott Van Salkman, Orange Court. I did listen to the chief's presentation, so that was really good of how everything's going with the fire department. And I did like you guys' discussion regarding the streetlights, having streetlights on my road. And I have to pay for it on taxes, so I'm glad you guys deferred that since there wasn't really a whole lot of support. I forgot to mention last meeting, appreciate how you guys it was still the Independence Day festivities, so I do appreciate that. Also the firefighters exercise and wellness, I do believe that's a good thing, obviously, to keep those guys in shape and obviously less prone to injuries is obviously a good thing. I do have some questions. I was out walking along the path on Thornapple River. I was able to see the Alan Cox bench. Still haven't seen a Alan Cox Memorial Pathway signs as of yet. I know it's been a while, so I don't know where we are with that. Jade, I do appreciate the snipe signs responses. When I do send those in, they do get taken out quickly, so thank you for that. And regarding the turf rake, I looked it up online. There's like 50 different accessories. I believe that we're maybe getting 2. Or what else can that do? Like, will it, besides just the infields, I don't know if there's anything they could do. I think it could possibly use for like thatching the grass and stuff like that, but I don't know. It didn't look like there was a whole bunch of, it looked like maybe there's just 2 accessories on the bid for this. So I don't know if they're going to come back and ask for, 5, 10, a bunch of other accessories for them. So those were.
If we can address it during manager comments and
Yeah,
Director Zickle.
Yeah. And yes, I also brought up the graffiti a year or so ago too. So I appreciate that gentleman from doing it again. Like I know they did clean up the village area, which was there. They had all those stickers and there was some graffiti on the traffic sign boxes and stuff like that. I believe there's even some more on Thornapple River and Laraway Lake and on that traffic box on the inside. So, and again, obviously, if some of the people, the employees, especially obviously buildings and grounds, I know they have lots of other things to do, but if they happen to be out and about and see it, maybe make a note of it and add that unfortunately to the list of things that they have to keep doing. And obviously this getting close to their busy season with stuff growing soon. So but those are my comments and concerns. So thank you all.
Thank you. Any other public comments, either in person or virtually? Manager comments.
Just a couple of things. One, I appreciate Mr. Wilson being here, bringing the graffiti to our attention. It was brought up before. We'll go out there and take a look at that. We'll work with the road commission and the county on that. In regards to the compliance visits, that's Eagle Creek, correct? Yes. So as requested by the board at the last board meeting, there will be a report coming out on a monthly basis in regards to zoning compliance and visits. So that will be included on that report and will be available in the packets on a monthly basis. I just wanted to also say that Mr. Van Solkema comes up every meeting and talks about the signs. And so I got together with our zoning administrator and Director Zwick, and we went out and got 36 signs in one day throughout the township. That was more than I thought were out there. The sheriff's office did go visit a few of them. I wasn't going to send them to everybody. And then we also have letters going out to all of those. And that will also be in the report that you guys get on a monthly basis.
Can we ticket those businesses or is it too premature?
I'd have to look at I'd have to talk with Omar.
Any response, Dan, or off the top of your head about the attachments?
I don't know off the top of my head, so.
Board comments. Trustee Shipley?
Thanks for coming down. Nice to see you folks again from Glenstone Court. Wondered what happened to you. Scott, thanks for coming. And we try to do the best job we can to provide service to the residents. That's our number one. Certainly, if Dan can also regain some of the expenses from rental of those facilities, that's number two. And we try to, as you can see, we don't always agree on how to spend the taxpayers' dollars, but we try and get the best bang for our buck. So thanks for coming down.
Trustee Nordic?
No comments, thank you.
Trustee Rizzi?
Yeah, I'd like to shout out to our manager, Jade Smith. Thank you on working on getting that zoning report set up. I think that'll be a big benefit to the residents. As we saw tonight, they're asking questions that would have been answered on that report, and obviously it helps the board. And then I'd also, with respect to the graffiti, I know you mentioned road commission and some other entities, but the railroad would certainly be a big one. That railroad bridge is getting a lot of paint thrown at it and has for years. And unfortunately, the King County Sheriff's Department has been pretty, well, they've been pretty adamant that they don't respond to calls when people are caught painting the bridge. And I think we need to work on that enforcement a little bit.
I was told once that our buildings and grounds crew, this was years ago, but did try to just go paint it themselves. And I don't know if it was at what level of government, but railroad related was told back off. So maybe it was just a bad timing, but can't win sometimes. Still,
Maybe they should have been trying to put like a Cascade Township logo on there or something, so it looks like art.
There's also a neighbor dispute at Anderson Woods, and it was a stay-at-home mom in a minivan who got caught spraying on that railroad bridge. Trustee Nordhook?
All set, thank you.
Clerk Slater? No comments. Treasurer Kirsten? No comments. I just want to say real quickly, it was in the most recent newsletter, but the first annual Easter egg hunt at the Cascade Rec Park will be what, Dan? Is it April 19th?
April 19th at 10 a.m. But we're gonna have, the fire department's gonna be out there, some fire trucks. The sheriff's department's gonna be out there, and then we're gonna have some live bunnies. We need, anybody up there wants to volunteer to be the Easter bunny,
Well,
put
the Easter
you-
Bunny's gonna be
well-
there, right?
well, it depends who wants to get in the suit. And and right now we have 15,000 eggs. So should be exciting.
Great. And the bridge construction right now over the river on time, Eric? Any updates on that?
They started work last Monday, they restarted on that bridge. Should be substantial completion end of May. That's all I have. As far as I know, everything is going well. I've observed the traffic through there on a couple occasions, and I know we had some bumps in the road the first time through on the first phase, but everything seems to be smooth sailing this time as best as it can be. And I haven't heard any traffic complaints anyway from
I think they
anybody.
did it a little differently and better than the first,
Yeah, I think
first.
we-
Except on Sunday morning.
we've learned our lessons and I think applied them, so.
I've noticed on a couple occasions going through there that the crews are working what I would consider overtime. 6 o'clock, they're still out there working. So they're at the task.
Great.
I make a motion for adjournment?
All in favor? Opposed? Thank you. Thank you for coming.